Well, you are listening to the Motherhood Unstressed podcast, and I'm your host, Liz Carlisle. I'm here today with a very special guest, Daniel Packard. He has created something in my mind is quite revolutionary, but I'm going to let him tell you a little bit about the work that he's doing and the incredible research-driven program that he's developed over years, and what we are talking about today. So, Daniel, please tell our audience a little bit about what you do.
Well, thank you. But first of all, I want to say, I know unstressed is in the title, but your voice, it's very calming. So I know you bring on people to help your audience be less stressed, but
Mhm.
your voice in and of itself is a real gift. So thank you. We need more calm voices in the world. What I want to share with your audience is something that I think they haven't heard before, but could really make them happier. And what I want to share is for your audience, which is obviously mostly mothers, mothers who are stressed, but also just mothers who know they're stressed and not being the mothers and partners that they want to be. And so if you're a mother out there and you're stressed, or you're a partner and you're stressed, or both, your audience is seeking help. They are self-aware of what holds them back and what limits them from being the woman they want to be. And they've tried a lot of things. They've done therapy, they've done retreats, they've done, sweat lodges. They've probably maybe been hopped up on a psychedelic frog. They've done spirituality. They've read the books. They've done all of that. And what they've probably experienced is that it helps a bit. It gives them insights. It gives them awareness, maybe tools to manage it, especially meditation, especially mindfulness. It's great for managing. However, what they've probably found is that none of this, and by none of this, I mean the stress, the anxiety, the people pleasing, the perfectionism, um, the procrastination, the self-doubt, it's not solved. It's better, but it's not solved. And when you can't solve these things, you just can't be the person that you want to be to your children, to your partner, to the world, to yourself. And then also, when you can't solve it, often and many people feel, you start to feel stuck. You start to feel broken. You start to feel like there's something wrong with me. But also, when you can't solve this stuff, it's a lot of energy to always be working on it and managing it. And it's also exhausting. So you're tired. You're not as joyful. You're not as present with the people you care about. And so if that sounds like you, what I want to be talking about is a topic that nobody is talking about, that they need to be talking about. And that is the topic of results. And I know it's not a super sexy word. Words like vision board and manifest sound way cooler, but results.
Mm.
What I call the improvement industrial complex. That's therapy, spirituality, self-help, psychology. It's a $1 trillion, trillion with a T, industry globally every year. And it's 15 trillion over 20 years. However, the global happiness index has gone down. We're getting less happy. We're getting more anxious every year by about 3%. Depression's on the rise by about 4% per year. And so what it's pointing to is that this industry is getting bad results. People are spending more and feeling worse.
Mm.
And part of the reason we spend so much is because what they are offering us are not permanent solutions. It's a $1 trillion a year industry because we have to keep doing it endlessly. That hamster wheel makes a lot of money. And so we're going to do two things today. I'm going to share with your audience something so that they understand why no matter how much money they spend and how much time they spend working on themselves, they never fully solve the anxiety, the overwhelm, the procrastination, the people pleasing, the self-doubt. And also I'm going to share a couple key strategies that when you go looking for help, whether it's a therapist, a spiritual teacher, a book, what things to look for to help you get better results. And by results, I mean permanent results, fast results, and let's be honest, results that are much less expensive, because this stuff's expensive. It's a lot of money. So there's a lot of podcasts on being better people. And there's literally millions of episodes that share information on being calmer, happier, people pleasing. However, that information doesn't always solve anything. So if you just want information, if you just want to learn about perfectionism, if you just want to learn about stress, there's tons of podcasts, literally millions. If, however, you'd like to understand how to get not just information, but a permanent solution so that you can be free of the people pleasing, the perfectionism, the procrastination, the self-doubt, the anxiety, the stress, the overwhelm, so that you can be the woman you want to be, have more energy, more joy, more motivation, and be an example for your children so they can be that way. If that sounds good to you, that is what I'm going to be sharing with you right now with Liz.
Well, that's why I'm so excited that you're here because this is truly, again, I have to say the word revolutionary because, again, like we have had these systems in place, the meditation, the journaling, and all those things are great. I love that stuff. Like I definitely subscribe to that. But again, you're right. It's not something that's going to have a lasting, permanent, measurable result. And that's something that you're doing. But before we get into all of that, I would love to give the audience kind of a bird's eye view of the events in your life that led you to this work with healing and just changing the whole mind, body, and soul.
You. And I want to back up and say what we are doing is innovative and revolutionary. And it makes me sad because getting people a fast, permanent solution should be the norm.
Mm-hmm.
When you take your car to a car mechanic and the brakes don't work, the mechanic doesn't say, wow, I'd like to invite you to my retreat for a weekend. And we're really going to explore, your car and gain real mindfulness and awareness around where that sound is coming from. And then I have a set of courses where we can really dive deep. No, you take it in and there's a solution. That's what people want when you hire a plumber, a landscaper. You ideally pay some money and you get a result. That's just fair. And the fact that this idea of solving things and solving things quickly is revolutionary breaks my heart. And I'm going to explain where I first got heartbroken by this in my own story, which was that, well, first of all, our company's passion is results, specifically permanent results, specifically fast results. And the reason that results mattered so much to me is because when I was 10 years old, my dad, who is a physicist, he sat me down and he said, it's hard to know who knows what they're talking about in the whole world, but also in science. He said, it's the person that gets results that you should listen to, and that's who you should trust most. And he said something that always stuck with me, which is results matter. And when he said, I said, you're right. Anybody can have an opinion and a thought and an idea, and that's valuable. But man, what gets results? And this idea of getting results, I liked. And I liked it so much that as a kid, I was a little inventor. My dad was generous enough to let me use his workshop. And I would look around the world and I would invent things. And I would go into his workshop and I would build a prototype. It wouldn't work. And then I would test it and tweak it until it worked and got a result. And it was a very satisfying feeling. And I saw that I was good at it, inventing and designing and engineering things that work. So I go to engineering school to learn to be professionally trained, to look at seemingly complex problems, break them down into smaller pieces, and then create a mechanical thing that could get a result. But you build a prototype, but it doesn't work in the very beginning. You test it, you collect data, then you refine and adjust and tweak and until after a lot of hard work and focus and care, if you're lucky and smart and work hard, you get something that works consistently and gets a consistent results. That's what technology is. So the good news was I knew how to make machines that work. The downside was nobody taught me how to make life work. I don't know if it was in some class that I missed, but I ended up in an abusive relationship with a woman. And when it was over, I had complex PTSD, crippling anxiety. My procrastination was the worst it had ever been. My people pleasing was the worst it had ever been. My self-doubt, my perfectionism was the worst it had ever been. And I, like your audience says, okay, I'm going to go looking for help. So I go to therapists, I go to coaches, I go to retreats, I read the books. I was probably in a cult or two. I spent $100,000 in 10 years trying to just be happier. And after 10 years and $100,000, I remember I was sitting on a beach in Mexico feeling kind of crappy, feeling sad, feeling still fake, feeling unfulfilled. And I just had this sad, heartbreaking moment of, oh my God, this personal development, spiritual, therapeutic work, it doesn't work that well. It feels good to sometimes do it. It feels good to go to a retreat. It feels good to read that book. It feels good to talk about stuff. And there's value in it. But man, 10 years and still doing this stuff, bad results. And I had this pissed off moment where I looked up at whoever's up there pulling the strings and I was pissed. I said, what do you want from me, man? You know, I know this is a test, but I just spent 10 years and $100,000 I bet it all on you, and I still feel like crap. What's the test? What do you want from me? Tell me and I'll do it, but I'm trying. What do you want from me? And I was just being rhetorically pissed off. I did not expect an answer, but I heard this sort of voice sort of say what my dad told me at 10, which was results matter.
Mhm.
And this stuff's not getting good results. And I had this awareness that I'm a trained engineer, I'm an innovator, and nobody has applied engineering to human happiness. So I thought, okay, maybe I'll try it. I don't know. So I started a research company, Full Liberation Technology, with the mission, could we maybe reverse engineer a process such that if you work the simple steps, you get the result. The result is that what you're struggling with, the anxiety, the overwhelm, the people pleasing, the self doubt, all of it is either significantly down or gone in a short period of time, and that it's systematic, meaning anybody can do it. We didn't know if it was possible. Honestly, it was just someone's got to try. Someone has to
Mm.
innovate this industry. It took 8 years. It was so hard. It was 8 years. It was grueling, but engineers don't give up. We just keep going until we solve it. It's one of, Edison did 3,000 light bulbs until he got it. That's a certain way of approaching things. You just don't give up till you solve it. So 8 years, $1 million in research and development. We work with 3,000 people all over the world. I worked with addicts in South Africa. I worked with entrepreneurs in Europe. I worked with athletes in the US. I worked with moms in South America. And what we ended up with was a very simple online program that in 6 weeks, whatever you are struggling with that you've had your whole life is either gone or significantly down in 6 weeks. And what we're most proud of is the 90% success rate, meaning 9 out of 10 people that work the steps can be free of this. And I'll talk more about the data later, but the important thing is I can tell you I was the first case study. I went from crippling anxiety, complex PTSD, procrastination, people pleasing, perfectionism, self doubt. I had it all. And I can tell you now, I wake up every morning and I'm just calm. It's a default calm. I don't have to meditate. I don't have to go on I have what I call default tranquility. It's my base level. The idea of being perfect does not even occur to me. I'm like a child, just life is like a big old finger paint. I just go and I have fun. I, on a cellular level, don't care what people think of me. Not from an arrogant place. It just does not occur to me that your opinion matters more than mine. I don't procrastinate. I'm constantly doing and working and serving, and I have the energy of a child. And again, it's permanent. That is the power of building a system that is focused not on making money, but on results. So I'll share with your audience later some key pieces that your audience can use to live better lives. But first, if you want to share anything or ask a question.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's so many places I could go with just that background about you. Um, when did you feel like this is actually going to work? Because you said at the beginning it was so hard. And how are we actually going to quantify people's results with this? When did you actually click on something and it was like, oh my gosh, we've figured it out. We're onto something big.
That's an excellent question. And I remember the moment because it still sticks with me. So what we did is first we did a lot of research to reverse engineer what should work, meaning it seems like if you organize things in this sequence with these tools in this order, it should work. But it's just a theory. You don't know. You then test it. And we were testing it with people, and I was one of the first case studies. And I remember I woke up one morning. Again, I was living on a beach, not in Mexico. I think I was in Belize at that time. And I woke up, Liz, and I felt eerily calm. And it was not a usual calm. It was much deeper. And it felt disorienting. I hadn't felt it before. And then I thought, oh my God, is it starting to take hold? And then I started to sort of data test. I started to think about people whose opinion mattered to me in the past, who I was insecure around. So I started going through this list of people that I wanted them to like me. I didn't care. And what is that? And I also felt my energy level go up. So I go to my team and I said, something's going. But in my mind, I'm thinking, this is temporary.
Mm-hmm.
I've had this my whole life. There's no way this is permanent. Also, I've tried things in the past that gave me a temporary good feeling. So I didn't think it would last, but I was hopeful. So one day goes by, still wake up calm. 1 week goes by, 1 month goes by. It's been 10 years and it's permanent. But I remember that first morning when I first woke up and went, oh my God, I think we got it. And what would made it so
Mm.
exciting was it wasn't from some spiritual enlightened experience. We had a system we were developing. And when it worked for me, the oh my God is, well, I just saw the results of the system, which means our system is going to be able to be scalable and help more people. That was the excitement. Not that I got it, but that we could roll this out to more people. So that was the moment.
Do people on your team go through the system too? Like, is this mandatory? Like, if you're going to be, part of this company, you have to do the program too.
It used to be, because in the very early iterations of the program, we had people kind of coach people through the process. Um, but my goal was always to remove the human component because if this is a real technology where you just work the exercises, you shouldn't need coaching. We wanted to develop basically an inner gym, and you don't need a trainer to go to the
Mm.
gym. You just work the exercises and you grow muscle. So now, through a lot more testing, we've gotten the program where it's fully automated, which we're very proud of, because one is it's higher quality control. We know the system works, but also we can make it more affordable because humans aren't involved, and we can scale it, get it into schools, organizations, and governments. So now, no, it's not required for the team to do it because the team isn't participating in the program. The program just works.
Is this something that children could do and gain a lot of benefit out of? Because I know so many moms out there are dealing with just elevated levels of anxiety and perfectionism and all of these, detrimental issues in their children, and they really don't know how to address it. You send them into therapy, and like you said, they're getting worse by the year, not better.
So even when you say that, I get chills because the short answer is yes. Um, I'm working right now with some people in the Swedish government where we're going to hopefully do a clinical trial in Swedish schools, because we all know whatever tools are out there, if we could get it to kids earlier, things would be a lot easier. And because this is so effective, we're trying to get, that was the original version, was to get a version into schools. And the reason it's so effective is it's addressing the root cause, and it's dead simple and easy to do. And as we know, our teens, especially, anxiety is on the rise, suicide's on the rise, and there is no response. There is no response, and mothers are seeing in real time their children in excruciating pain. And I don't have children, but I taught this. This was just 3 weeks ago. A mother from Vancouver, Elizabeth, reached out to me. She said, I have some anxiety and some overwhelm and some people pleasing, and I'd like help for me. She said, but honestly, it's for my daughter who has tons of potential. She's a gymnast, crippling anxiety, crippling perfectionism. And she said, it is so heartbreaking to see your child in pain, and there's nothing you can do. And if you're paying attention, if you're an anxious mother, you know that's rubbing off on your child. That's not the hard part. The hard part is you can't do anything to stop it. And so we've started working with mothers and their child so that not only does the mother go through the program and really understand it, and then can model behavior for their child, but also then the child does it and they feel much better, and then the mother can also support the child. So Elizabeth went through it, and her child went through it. And the power of this was she felt so powerless to help her child. And she told me, she sent me a message a week ago, and she just said, thank you so much. And I said, what's happening? And she said, my daughter went to school today. And I asked my daughter how things went. And she said, well, I got bullied today, but it just doesn't bother me that much. And the mother just went, what are you talking about? It used to cripple you. And she says, I know. But I've been watching you use these tools and how you're much calmer. But also I'm using the tools and I'm much calmer. So 100%, if you are a mother and either for yourself, you want to understand how to solve the anxiety, the overwhelm, the stress, if nothing else, just to model healthier behavior and be a better mother, be more present. But also if you have a child between the ages of 14 and 18 or older, and you've sent them to therapy, it doesn't get the results that you want, and you want something simple and effective that works, absolutely, we offer that. And because I want to help families, we do sort of a 2-for-1 with our program. We don't charge you double. I'll give you the program for both
Oh,
of you to do, simply because I want to help.
that's huge. That's huge right there. And I think we've talked a lot about, that this actually works. You're a mechanical engineer, so you're highly focused on results. I do want to touch on, and I don't want to get too much into the weeds, but something that you discovered, which blew my mind, is where, let's say, anxiety lives in the body. I think so much of us think, well, this is a mental issue, perfectionism is a mental issue, but it's not. Can you talk about that?
Absolutely. And before I share with you that, what I'm sharing with your audience right now logically sounds great. A solution, a simple solution, work the steps, get the results, but they're going to be skeptical. They're going to think a little bit of too good to be true, because I also call it big thera, this $1 trillion industry, doesn't get results. There's a lot of people out there over promising and under delivering. So people are understandably skeptical about what we do. And anytime you do something innovative, people always in the beginning think it's too good to be true. So I'm sharing with your audience some insights, which I'll be sharing, and the results that we're getting. But I want your audience to experience this firsthand. So at the end of the podcast, I'm going to send your audience to my website, danielpackard.com, where they can download a free training called Pathway to Permanent Results. And there they can do a deep dive with our tools. They can apply one of our tools, and they will quickly feel measurable results. There's no charge for it. We believe in results, to the point of giving people free results. So if you're hearing me share anything with Liz and you think, that sounds good, but how do I know it's true? You don't. You can't trust me. Get this free training and see for yourself and have real proof. And actually, Liz, you listen to the training that I want to give to your audience. And without giving too much away, their time is valuable. Did you find value in the training, and do you think there's value for them?
I absolutely did. And this, again, you guys, I am so big into yoga and meditation and journaling. And I'll probably do that the rest of my life just because, hey, it feels good and I like doing it. And so when I started the training, I was like, okay, let's see. You can't hypnotize me. You can't talk me into anything I don't want to do. I'm my own person. But I will absolutely say, when you judge your anxiety levels about a situation at the beginning, and then you judge your anxiety levels at the end, and it blew my mind at the end. I actually felt noticeably less anxious when imagining the same anxious situation. And again, I'm like, you're not going to tell me what to do. And I felt the difference, and I thought, oh my God, I'm so grateful that he is coming on the show to speak to all of you and to do this. And I'm just blown away. And that's why I think this is important. And I want to get this out to you guys. And if you have any kind of inkling and curiosity about this, it doesn't hurt to try a free training and see if it works for you, because even that little hour and a half flew by, and the results that I felt in such a short amount of time were very interesting to me. And, definitely piqued my curiosity. So,
And the
yeah.
fact that it blew you away, partly
Yeah,
people are surprised by how effective it is and how simple it is, but they're also blown away because it's really simple, and you've tried a lot of things. Your audience has tried
I've
a lot
done
of
it
things.
all.
So part of why did it blow you away is because it was both simple, but the content you hadn't heard before in that way.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. And that leads me back to that question I asked you before this, is where do these issues actually live in the body? Because that was something that I'd never heard before.
Yeah. So I'm going to share with your audience one of the key fundamental breakthroughs that our company made, so they can understand what's going on with them if they want better results, but also just in general knowing what's going on so they can get better results. So the first thing we did before we started to build out this inner technology was we first noticed how complicated personal development was, and spirituality and psychology. It doesn't mean there's not valuable things out there. It's just really, really complicated. Is this my ego? Is this my past? Is it my hormones? Am I supposed to walk on coals? Am I supposed to be in ice water? Do I have a scarcity mindset? Is it my past? Is it my this? Do I do this? And then for how much and for how long? It's just really, really confusing. There's no clear pathway of what to do for how long, and it never solves anybody, which just leaves people more confused. So we saw as scientists that the best scientists that made the biggest impact could always simplify. Newton took all of motion on planet Earth and got it down to 3 laws because he really understood things. Einstein took this complex thing of relativity, gets it down to E equals mc squared. When you really know something, you can simplify something. So we saw that this entire industry was just regurgitating and repackaging old information that's not getting great results. So let's see if we can simplify it, because that'll put us on the right track. We'll also understand the problem better to find a solution. So this was the first key perceptual breakthrough that we saw. And I'll share it with your audience. We are taught, and it feels like we have multiple problems, such as procrastination. I am a people pleaser. I have perfectionism. I have self-doubt. I am overwhelmed. And it feels like you have multiple problems, and you go to different people for different problems, read different books, and it feels like you have multiple problems. What the data showed is that we do not have multiple problems. We have multiple symptoms of one singular thing, which is the sensation of fear. I'll say that again. We are told and taught, and it feels like we have multiple problems, but in fact, what we have is multiple symptoms of one singular sensation, which is fear. So what does that mean? You don't have procrastination. You have a fear of starting and finishing things. You don't have perfectionism. You have a fear of making a mistake. You aren't a people pleaser. You're afraid people won't like you, so you put everybody else first and yourself last. You don't have self-doubt or low confidence. You have a fear to be your natural, true, authentic self. And you don't have anxiety. You have a high level of fear, and we call that high level of fear. So to Liz and your audience, does it sort of make logical sense that we don't have problems, but sort of symptoms of fear? Does that make sense?
100%.
And does that simplify things?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Why?
Because again, you're not chasing after all of these ghosts that you're latching onto this and exploring this. It's like it's one thing that you have to address and tackle or just
Yes.
face.
Yep, that's the base. And that is the root cause. And your audience listening to this can say, oh, that makes sense. And I knew I had some fear there. That's not the shocker. The shocker is most of the improvement industrial complex is sending you to the symptom level. And you could use the best tool from the best teacher and the best retreat with the best book. But if you're at the symptom level, your results will always be temporary, and you're constantly working on yourself. So can you see that if you want better results, whether it's us, because we go to the root cause, or anybody that you hire, any book that you read, any retreat you go to, any guru you follow, look at what they're teaching and saying, is what they're sharing setting me on the right track to the root cause, which is the fear? If not, it's fine. You can learn from them, but you're going to be stuck managing symptoms for the rest of your life. So that's the first thing. Find people that address the root cause, and that is their focus. And ideally, if it resonates with you that fear is at the root of this or a big part of it, find people that specifically focus on the fear, which is we do. We lower the fear. We get rid of the fear. And when the fear is gone, the symptom, the anxiety, the procrastination, people pleasing, self-doubt, all of it basically goes away and stays away. In a bit, I'll explain where and why we're afraid, which is what you were talking about. But first, do you have any questions or thoughts?
Well, it just made me think like this even trickles into medical issues, and like if you have a lot of anxiety at night, you're not sleeping, and that propels you into ill health, and that affects your next day and your work, and like so many things that then result physically. So it's not only that you're addressing this I don't know, inner mechanical issue, but it's going to affect people on a physical level in a really meaningful way.
100%. And because multiple symptoms are linked to one root cause, when you come into our program, usually people come in for one specifically targeted pain point. And we usually have you pick one because it's easier to get results when we focus and track data. But I had a female client from Seattle, and she had anxiety and people pleasing. She tried a bunch of stuff her whole life, always managing it. It was better, but she had met somebody at a conference who told what we do. She also found out that because we care about results, we don't charge people at the beginning of our program. We only charge people at the very end once they have clear, measurable results, which of the million coaches and therapists in the world, nobody lets you pay at the end.
Nobody.
Nobody. And why do you think that is, Liz? A plumber lets you pay at the end. A mechanic lets you pay at the end. Why do you think people in this industry of helping people, why do you think they don't let people pay at the end when they get results? Why do you think that is?
Well, I think we all know why that is. They got to sell the thing.
And they don't get the results. So they couldn't
Mhm.
collect money. But
Right.
because we have a 90% success rate, and because it's just the right thing to do, we let people pay at the end when it works. Anyway, that helped lower the doubt for her, and she worked with us. About 4 weeks in, her anxiety was down from about an 8 out of 10 for, I think it was 6 hours a day. And by about week 3, it was down to about 4.5 out of 10 for about an hour a day. That's just after 3 weeks. The people pleasing was already down by about 50%. And what that meant was she was spending much more time prioritizing herself. She was setting boundaries. She was speaking up and getting her needs met. But then also, her procrastination started to lift. She started the book that she always wanted to do. And also, she went back to singing, which was an expression of more self confidence. So, if you're going to do a program, also find people where the closer you get to the root cause, the more benefits you're going to get from a short period of time. So, now to answer your question about what you found valuable in the training, which is the location of the fear. This was huge. And this is probably the biggest thing where people go, oh my God,
Yeah.
can't believe my therapist didn't tell me that. So when we first started, we were very conscious not to reuse or regurgitate what was already out there. Not because it wasn't good, but because it's from a paradigm of bad results. So we didn't want to accidentally. We wanted to start from scratch with a goal, which was to solve, and then find things that would work in a system for a solution. The first thing we saw when we looked around is, okay, well, what's the current approach? The current approach is that fear, we're taught, is generally a problem of the mind. If you have a lot of fear or anxiety, it's quiet the mind, burn the ego, cognitive behavioral therapy. Cognition is in the brain, mindfulness in the mind. Therapists give pills to target the neurotransmitters in the brain. It's called mental health. It's got the word mental right in there. Now, the mind is part of it. The mind says mean, scary things, and you will feel afraid. So it looks like it might be the mind. There's just one problem. The mind approach gets bad results. You can spend a lifetime in the mind trying to improve the mind. It's better. It manages it, but temporarily, and it's always managing. And we said, well, if it's the root cause, if fear comes from the mind, why is anxiety on the rise? If mind is such a great solution, Freud, the father of Western psychology, was a chain-smoking cocaine addict. Like that's not a good indication that the mind is where it's at. And we found out through our research, because we were outsiders, we were okay to challenge the pre-existing construct. We found out that fear does not originate in the mind. The primary source of the sensation of fear does not originate in the mind. It originates in the body. And your audience probably even intuitively knows that. If you're anxious or afraid, do you say, I think anxious or I feel anxious? Which one? Feel.
Yeah.
And where do you feel it? Chest, throat, heart, stomach, gut. Listen to those words: chest, throat, stomach, heart, gut. Is that the mind or is that the body?
Yeah, it's all in the body.
It's all in the body. And then it spreads to the mind, because that's how we're mechanically wired. We are mechanically wired such that we feel in the body and we send signals of what we need to stay alive. Then the mind picks up on the signals and is a little computer to try and keep the body alive. You feel hunger in the body first, and then you think, oh, where should we go eat food? For reasons which I'll explain in a bit, your body is in a default state of low to mid to high levels of fear.
Mm.
Your mind doesn't know why. Your mind just thinks, oh my gosh, there's a problem, there's a threat, and then starts spinning. Oh my God, there's something wrong with me. What if I run out of money? What about my, and then the mind starts spinning and beating you up, which keeps you trapped in what we call the spin cycle. So the mind is part of it, but the actual origin of where the fear is coming from first is the body. So if you go to the mind, you can manage the fear, but the solution is in the body. And the reason this matters is your audience was primarily sent to the mind. And so they couldn't possibly solve it. And then it all comes back. You feel more broken. What's wrong with me? Why am I so this way? Why am I so that way? So can you see the value that if you go from the wrong location
Right.
to the right location, it's likely you're going to get better results?
It changes everything
Why?
because it's like you're, say you had an infection. Well, you're not going to treat your hand if the infection's in your knee. It wouldn't work as well.
Exactly. People sometimes say, how are you getting these incredible results? What fancy thing are you doing? What Harry Potter, spell are you using? And I said, we're engineers. This is simple. We just went from the wrong location to the right location. And so I ask your audience, whoever you go to for help, I invite you to focus. It's not to say that the mind things don't help, but we found that much faster permanent results when you went to the body. And so work with people that are at least focusing closer to the root cause. And I want to let your audience know, it makes sense that it's the body. And yet the mental health community has called it mental health for 100 years. Anxiety is on the rise. And even though everyone's feeling in the body, they still call it mental health. They call themselves experts. We trust them, and then we get pulled into a lifetime of pain. So I want to let your audience know, part of why you're still struggling with these patterns and your kids are struggling with patterns is because these mental health experts, I would argue, aren't experts. Because if they were really experts, they would not call it mental health. They would call it body health. So it's not your fault you're stuck in these patterns. It's that the people that you trusted don't understand this problem well enough to solve it. And that's why you're stuck in these patterns.
Well, I think the $1,000,000 question here then is, how do we begin to heal on a permanent level?
That is the $1,000,000 question. I would argue the $1,000,000,000 question, but yeah, that's what everybody wants to know. Because if you tell people, fear is a problem, most people can go, yeah, that makes sense. And then if you say, hey, the body is either a big part of it or the whole thing, people will go, yeah, you're right. I do feel in my body a lot. It makes sense that the body is either a large part of it or the actual root. And then the next question is, well, how? And that's where engineers come in. We don't just, there's lots of experts out there there are people out there that understand the role of the body. There's a book called The Body Keeps the Score. Gabor Mate focuses on the body being a part of it is not the typical approach, but we didn't discover that. At least we were in the right place. But the power of going to the body is way simpler and it's mechanical. If you think it's in the mind, we don't understand the mind. It's just this black hole. There's a million trillion neurons and synaptic pathways. You can explore the mind and look in the mind, but it's not simple. It's complicated, which is why the mind approach. The second you go to the body, on one hand, the body's kind of simple. We understand how the skeleton works. We understand how eyes work, how the tongue works, how the heart works. And it's because a lot of what's in the body are systems.
Mm.
And systems engineers and love, because once you understand how the system works, you can understand why a system malfunctions and repair a system back to optimal performance. If you try to solve your problems in the mind, you could be stuck in there for lifetimes. If you find out, oh, I have a cavity because I ate unhealthy and now there's a hole there and the nerve is exposed. That's a mechanical systems problem. You go to the dentist, they put in the filling, solved. So once we went to the body, things got way simpler. And we said, okay, let's look at this like a system. The bodies are systems. Let's find the system that could be perhaps controlling the sensation of fear and perhaps see why it is malfunctioning and basically making people afraid when they shouldn't be afraid. And we need an understanding that's solvable, not abstract, but makes it solvable. And we found it. And it was obvious, and it should have been figured out a long time ago, but it's not. Do you want me to tell you what it is?
Yes, tell all of us, please.
Okay. once we saw that it was in the body, instead of just trying to come up with something, we said, well, wait a minute. The body has a lot of basic principles about how it functions. So maybe this is a very simple problem. We are all given a body, and we are given a body for free. Do you know how expensive it would be, Liz, to buy and develop a body? Do you know how much an eyeball would be on Amazon? Just one eyeball. To develop an eyeball? One eyeball. Let alone a second eyeball, let alone two eyeballs that work together, ears, heart, lungs, hair, eyelashes. It would be trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars to buy a body, but we don't have to buy a body. We are gifted a human body and spirit for free by the divine under one condition. What is that condition?
I don't know. You have to go through life.
The condition is you get a body for free, but you have to take care of it.
Mm.
We're going to give you this incredible body where you need food and fuel, and we'll even provide the food. But you got to eat the right food or you're going to have symptoms and pain. We're going to give you this body. It needs enough sleep. Take care of the body. Drink enough water. Exercise. Here's the body. In fact, everything we are given on this planet that's organic, meaning alive, the planet, our children, pets, partners, anything alive, a lot of it is given to us on one condition. Take care of it. Take care of your relationships. Take care of your children. Take care of your pets. Take care of the planet. Take care of yourself. And if you do not take care of your body, is it agreed that we'll start to see symptoms from not taking care of the body?
Absolutely.
So we just said, well, wait a minute. What if that applies to this? What if it's that simple? And what we saw is that there is a system, just the way there's a system that holds the body up called a skeleton, just the way there's a system that pumps blood called a heart. We found that there was basically an emotional system controlling the sensation of fear. And in this emotional system, there's basically a switch that turns fear on and off. In a healthy person with a healthy emotional system, the switch will turn on and off at appropriate times. But for reasons which I'll explain, the fear mechanism is basically stuck in the on position and is cranking out fear for no reason. But then that fear turns into the fear of starting and finishing, which then creates procrastination. That fear turns into fear that people won't like me. So now you're self-doubt. The fear to be perfect. Or if the fear gets high enough, it turns into stress and anxiety and even panic attacks. So I'll explain to you why the emotional system is stuck in the on position. But can you see if there's a system in the body that can turn fear on and off and it's stuck in the on position, creating fear, can you see that that would give rise then to anxiety, overwhelm, people-pleasing, perfectionism, procrastination, and self-doubt? Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And for you not to know why, in the moment, you're just scared.
You're just scared and you can't turn the switch off. You can turn it off temporarily. You can meditate. You can do various things that can shut it off temporarily. But until the root cause, which I'll explain to you, is addressed, it'll just keep going on. And then you'll keep procrastinating. So what I want your audience to understand is the root cause of this is fear, but fear coming from the body. So your procrastination is not a psychological issue. It's a physiological issue. Your people-pleasing is not a spiritual issue. It's a physiological issue. Your anxiety is not a psychological issue. It is a physiological issue. All of this is just the body malfunctioning. And the beauty of that is people are much more compassionate to themselves when you realize things are from the body. When you think it's spiritual or psychological and you have anxiety, you think, oh my God, what's wrong with me? I'm broken. Why am I like this? And you beat the crap out of yourself. But if you are hiking too much and you get a blister, no one says, oh my God, I'm broken. I'm just like my father. What's wrong with, no, you're like, okay, I didn't take care of my body. And now there's symptoms from not taking care of it. So once you see this as a body issue, we can have much more compassion and grace and understanding, and we don't feel so broken. We just realize our system is running suboptimally. So one, there's nothing wrong with you. You are not broken. There's a system in your body, which for reasons I'll explain, has the fear sensation stuck in the on position. Humans cannot function properly with fear. That fear is giving rise to the symptoms of fear. So that's why you're not getting better results. So next I'll explain why the emotional body is not functioning correctly. But first, any thoughts or comments you want to share?
No, I mean, the first thing I want to really hit home is why and how does it get stuck? Why is that on switch on? I mean, is it because we're on our phones all the time? Is it because, work is stressful? We had a baby 2 years ago and we're still not really taking care of ourselves. Like, what causes that? Because I think, like you said, once you get to the root cause, you can turn it off and life can really be good.
Exactly. So what you just shared is the logical, how do we turn it off? But even that, because you don't study this, that question you won't be able to answer because the reason it's on is another reason. And that's what I'm going to tell your audience. But yes, if you can turn that fear switch off or at least have it go off, your life is just profoundly improved and you have so much more energy. So we realize there's this emotional system in the body. We realize the most likely culprit why it's malfunctioning is poor care. But then we had to find out the specific poor care in a way that's solvable. And this is what we discovered. This is what our entire technology is based on that makes this simple and doable. Not all systems, but many systems in the body have basic nutrition that it needs to function properly. Agreed?
Yeah, absolutely.
We need the nutrient of vitamin C. If you don't get vitamin C, you will get scurvy because your body needs vitamin C. Your body needs the nutrient of vitamin D. If it doesn't get it, there's all sorts of problems. Your body needs the nutrient of sleep. If it doesn't get enough sleep, your body needs the nutrient of water and various foods. So we said, well, wait a minute. Some systems have basic nutrients that you have to give it. But I never heard anything on what nutrients you have to give the emotional body for it to run properly. And if we weren't taught it, then we don't know how to do it. So we looked and we saw that essentially the emotional body has basic nutrients. I don't mean vitamins and minerals. That was just an example, but some nutrient that the emotional body needs to run properly. And we realized that nobody had studied this, thus nobody knows to do it. And so nobody is giving the emotional system the basic nutrients it needs. When it doesn't get the basic nutrients it needs, it's malfunctioning and that fear switch is stuck in the on position. If you don't drink enough water, your muscles will cramp basically in the off position. They'll clamp. But you don't have to unclamp your leg. You just get the nutrient of water and your body comes back to health. So what we did is we studied the basically emotional nutrients that the emotional body needs to run properly. So first of all, can you see that if the emotional body needs basic daily nutrients, but you were never taught those nutrients and you can't give the nutrients to the emotional system, can you see that it would malfunction and perhaps turn on the fear switch and it can't shut off?
Yeah.
Yeah. And did anybody ever sit you down at any point and say, hey, Liz, here's the basic daily nutrition of the emotional system. Here's what you need to do emotionally to yourself to keep your emotional system properly nutrified. Did anybody ever teach you that?
No, that's hilarious.
Right.
Even imagining that.
Yeah. I mean, if anything, when it comes to feelings, we're told to not give ourselves nutrients. Get over it. Don't take it personally. Don't worry about it. We are actually told our feelings are a liability because when we would feel when we were younger, it was very painful and we all shut down. And so forget the fact we're not taught the proper nutrients. We're basically told to neglect this part of our body. So even if we had the nutrients, we can't get them. So what I want your audience to know is what you're experiencing, anxiety, people pleasing, perfectionism, procrastination, overthinking, self-doubt, that's all symptoms of fear. And the fear is a symptom that you were just never taught how to give your emotional system proper nutrients. You are not broken. There is nothing wrong with you. It's not your past. It's not society. It's that you were never taught proper emotional nutrition. The downside is if you do not learn proper emotional nutrition, you'll continue to have your fear switch stuck in an on position. You'll always have fear and symptoms of fear. You can manage it. it never goes away because your body doesn't have proper nutrients. And that's why you're seeing the world get more and more unhealthy. They're under-nutrified. So that's the downside. What, though, if we want to solve this and we want a simple solution, why is this understanding actually good news that the whole problem is that we are under-nutrified because we didn't know about it? Why is that actually good news if we want to turn this whole thing around quickly?
I just think it removes the judgment and the shame, that feeling of I must be broken. I've tried all these things and I can't fix it, but it's like there is actually something you can do, and send that nutrition to your soul. Is the emotional body the soul?
I'm not going to answer that question. There's an overlap, and you can call it what you want. I mean, one could argue, yes, depending on what you call it. These are all great questions, and I always tell people, if this is piquing your interest, do the 90-minute training at the end so that you can experience this for yourself and know what this means to you. Because I'll just be giving you my perspective, but it's really about your perspective and your experience. But your audience will see, just like you saw when you went through the 90-minute training. And in this 90-minute training, you're going to learn some of the nutrients you were never taught to give. Again, I want to be really clear. We're not talking vitamin C. It is not a vitamin. It's a metaphor. Don't think you can say, oh, I just have to take vitamin C and my procrastination goes away. No, it was a metaphor, an emotional nutrient. And in the 90-minute training, you're going to learn some of the emotional nutrients that you were never taught to give yourself. And that's very illuminating because you'll very quickly say, oh, I didn't give myself the nutrients. No wonder this system is malfunctioning. And then at the end of the training, you'll basically apply one of the nutrients to your emotional system, and you will feel measurably calmer. When you applied the technique at the end, did you feel a measurable calming?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, to the point where it was like, is this a joke? Like, is this some kind of trick? Honestly, because it's, like I said, I've done everything that you can do aside from ayahuasca. So.
And would you say that when you hear about it for this time, it sounds like a trick or magical, but wasn't it the opposite? Wasn't it almost something incredibly simple and basic?
But at the same time, it felt almost like, I don't know, like a hug from your mom or something like that. It was like something that your body desperately wanted and that it kind of remembered, but that it hadn't gotten in a while, if that makes sense.
It's exactly what it is. Hadn't gotten in a while. A nutrient.
But something almost primal.
Yeah. Because that's what nutrients are. It's primal things that we need to function properly. And the power of this is that people, when they hear about a simple solution, they think that's too good to be true. But if the problem is really just an under-nutrified system that's running suboptimally, the reason that's good news is you can just learn to add the nutrients. If you're dehydrated, you can have brain fog, you can have headaches, you can die. And if you didn't know it was a dehydration issue or poor, hydration, nutrition, you could spend your entire life fatigued, tired, doubting. And in a matter of weeks, you could bring your entire system back online simply by just getting the body what it needs to run properly. And that's what we teach in the training. And here's the power of it, is the speed and the effectiveness. This was a year ago, just one story specifically, a woman from Calgary, and she had everything that we help people with. She had anxiety, people-pleasing, procrastination, perfectionism, self-doubt, overthinking. She had the entire salad of human pain. She focused specifically on procrastination because that was costing her sales. It was costing her productivity. She couldn't be present when she got home. She spent 7 figures. Granted, it was 7 figures Canadian, but still, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
And she said, there's no way. There's no way. I have tried everything and I've been burned. No way. And she said, but I heard you have this only pay for results guarantee. And she said, A, there's no risk to try, but B, if you've built something where I only pay at the end, that's different. That's different, and maybe it'll work. So she tried it. At the end of the 6 weeks, her procrastination was down by about 80%. What does that mean? Well, her focus time went from about 15 minutes per day up to about the amount that she could focus in any given time went from 15 minutes up to 90 minutes. The amount of time that she spent doing what mattered to her and what she loved went from 45 minutes up to 6 hours per day. Wow. But then because she wasn't procrastinating, she wasn't as anxious. When you put things off, they build and build and build, and you start to feel overwhelmed. A lot of the stress that people feel is the backup of things that they're delaying on, and then you get more anxious and then you procrastinate more. So her anxiety and stress levels went down by, I think it was like 80%, which gave her life back. But then her energy came back. It's
Yeah.
exhausting
Yep.
procrastinating and being stressed all the time. We're not built for it. So her energy level came back, her joy came back, but then she had more time. So she was more present as a mother. She was more present as a wife. Everything, the entire system got healthier in a matter of weeks. But more importantly, or as importantly, she saw that this worked. She saw that it was simple, and her child that was struggling with self-doubt and crippling anxiety did the program. And now her child is calm and confident, just got into college, is getting straight A's and fulfilling her potential. And the reason I tell you this is I can talk about engineering, I can talk about concepts. The fact is, I want people to know about this because this gets the people results. It's the result that we want, which is to be free of this stuff permanently and quickly so that we can be healthier and happier for the people we care about, but also the children that we're here to raise. That's the power of engineering. That's the power of a permanent solution.
Do you think it was just fate for you to be so mechanically, engineer minded, but also have this other element of wanting to heal and wanting to help and being a seeker really on this journey?
I do. I think I was chosen for this, not because I'm different or special, but because I had two traits that almost never are in the same person. There are incredible engineers, physicists, innovative problem solvers. They get great results. That's where all the technology is coming from in the world. The internet, medicine. There's a helicopter on Mars, Liz. A helicopter on Mars, remote control. All of that is technology and improvement and better results based on people who know how to engineer and innovate and problem solve. We see the effect of that is innovation and better results. The problem is those people are mind people who focus on the physical world. Then we have the seekers, the heart people, the teachers, the meditators, the inner lookers. They're the carers and the teachers, and they care, and they're in the body and the mind, and they're feeling and trying to be healthier and happier. Those people are teachers and sharers. What are they not? They're not innovators. They're not problem solvers. So it's two worlds that are separate. And I, for whatever reason, was chosen through my pain and my talents, where I was an innovative engineer problem solver and a heart seeker in one person who cared enough to solve something that hadn't been solved. So I absolutely believe that I was given two beautiful gifts that exist in the world, but usually not in one person. And I was given the gift of this pain, of this abusive relationship that gave me the PTSD to go looking for what's out there that didn't solve anything. And that created its own pain that was so much pain and so much stuckness and so much brokenness that I finally said, I can't take it anymore. And I broke out of the pre-existing construct and said, I got to do something about this for myself and the planet. And I absolutely see that I was chosen for this, and I have delivered, and I am grateful. And that's why I get on podcasts like this. And I hope you can understand, regardless of what I'm sharing, there's a lot of passion and a lot of conviction in what I do because I know I was chosen, and I've also fulfilled my potential and my purpose.
Love that. I love that so much. Daniel, wow, we went way over, but if there were one final message, besides that great message that you just left us with, what would you want to leave with the listening audience today about what we've talked about, your work, anything at all you feel called to share?
I want people to understand one thing, and then I want them to take one action, because it's action that leads to results. I don't just want to come on here and say a bunch of smart sounding things and walk away. There's enough smart people saying smart things. I don't want to add to the noise. I want to add to results, and results takes action. The first thing I want people to understand is you were not given a solution. You are not given a solution because the people that you trusted to help you are not trained or even incentivized to get you a solution. They make much more money stringing you along with endless courses, endless books, and endless visits. I'm not saying they're bad people. I'm saying they're not incentivized to solve anything. They're also not trained to solve things. They're not innovators. I get that. That's why the anxiety, the people pleasing, the perfectionism, the self-doubt, the procrastination, the overthinking, all these things that keep happening no matter what you try. That's why they're still here. But it's not, I repeat, not because there's anything wrong with you. You are not broken. It's just the people that you trusted didn't know how to solve this. This is not your fault. It's the people that you trusted. They're not bad people, but they didn't get you a solution, and that's why you're stuck in this hamster wheel. But it's not your fault. And also, what you're experiencing is not a psychological, spiritual problem. It is physiological. When you can see it as just physiological because you were never taught proper nutrients, you have much more compassion and understanding and grace for it. And then finally, I want people to take action. And that action is I want them to download this free training so that they can experience this for yourself. What I've shared makes sense, but you can't trust me. You don't know if this is true. See for yourself. And here's why you would download the training. I just want to summarize everything we've learned. What I basically shared is part of the reason that we're not getting better results or how to get better results is to get to the root cause, which is fear. So Liz, does it at least make logical sense that fear might be the root cause of a lot of what we're struggling with? Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. And does it make sense that if you go closer to the root cause or to the root cause, you're going to get better results in life, wherever you go? Does that make sense?
Of course.
Does it make sense that if we're primarily sent to the mind, which is a symptom of the body, and we're sent to the wrong location, we're going to get bad results? And does it make sense if we went to the actual correct location, which is the body, we're going to get better results? Does that make sense?
Yes, and that's one of my favorite things that I've learned from you.
Good. And does it make sense that there may not be some mysterious reason why the body is malfunctioning, but that the emotional system, you were never taught because no one studied emotional nutrition. And because you weren't taught it, you didn't know how to give yourself that nutrition. And that's the reason that the emotional system is malfunctioning. Not because it's broken or bad, but simply you weren't taught proper nutrition. Does that at least make sense?
Yes.
And does it make sense if all of this is a symptom of you weren't taught proper nutrition, but then you could be taught proper nutrition and get the nutrients that the emotional system needs? The emotional system could come back online quickly, and the fear switch, which is stuck in the on position, could shut off. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And does it make sense if the fear switch, which is stuck on, which is creating all the symptoms, the people pleasing, perfectionism, anxiety, overwhelm, all of it, was turned off? Does it make sense that the symptoms of fear could go away quickly and permanently if that fear switch was turned off?
Yes.
Yes. So if what I've shared with you makes sense and you want to understand how to give your body the nutrients that it needs and how to permanently turn off the fear switch, and if you want an experience to prove to yourself that what I'm sharing with you is true, then download the free training. Go to danielpackard.com. There's probably going to be a link in the bio, and download the free training and see for yourself and get proof that this can work for you, partly for you, so that you can be calmer, you can be more fulfilled, you can be more confident and present, but also if you have a child that is struggling and you see the pain they're in and you feel powerless and you would like for them to have a quick, fast way to be healthier and happier for the rest of their lives, if any of that interests you, take action and go to danielpackard.com to get the free training.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Daniel. And of course, guys, this will all be in the show notes for you. Your company, again, is Full Liberation Technology, Daniel Packard. This was such a pleasure. This was so illuminating. I love to hear you speak. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak to my audience today and to just uplift all of us in the world with your message and your work. Thank you.
It was truly my honor. Thanks for having me.